I love you.
So you said you like the interactive introductions?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Bring me on board.
Well, there you go.
Here we are.
I'm the Green Traveler.
And I am the Faceless Leone. This is Green and Faceless on the Couch, a podcast about movies and TV. And we're back with our playlist. Yeah.
Back with Harry Potter. Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, let's crack it open.
2002. Yeah, 2002. I think that was just 1 year after the last one. So I don't know if they filmed it back to back or if they just cranked it out like a motherfucker. But
well, the kids definitely aged a little bit.
Yeah, they did. But they were already close to puberty age last time, so it could literally have just been a couple of months time off, and then they just shot right up during that time.
Could have been. But man, I mean, we'll talk about it more when we get there, but the difference between this movie and the third movie is extreme.
Yeah, well, especially with Harry, and for this movie and the first movie, though, with Harry and, like, Ron, they definitely aged a lot. Their voices got, like, much deeper, and they got taller, just a little taller. But it's hilarious. But yeah, mostly the same cast, still Chris Columbus directing. You have the atmosphere got even darker, which is great for this movie, I think.
Oh, yeah. For this particular movie, yeah.
Yeah, like, when you're in the castle, it just feels like everything's candlelit, and you know, it's perfect for that castle creepy dungeon atmosphere. I loved it. And this is sadly the last film with Richard Harris as Dumbledore. He died later in 2001. I don't know if he got to see the movie, but he's great in it. Very... you know, just as small of a role as last time, but he gets to put more emotion into it this time. There's a little more Dumbledore. You get to see more of a, I would say, startled and intense. You know, once the Chamber of Secrets is opened and the events start happening, he seems a little off-put and on edge. And I like the angry... I mean, there's no anger in his voice at all, but there is more of an edge when he talks to people at times where he's just like, enough with your nonsense.
The school is in danger.
Yeah, the school's in danger. We're going to figure it out. And I really like that because you get to see that of Richard Harris and his Dumbledore. And, you know, again, we don't get to see how him versus Voldemort would have played out, but I like the edge he gave here because I think that's what would have been brought forward is that bit of intimidation that lay behind his Dumbledore.
Yeah, paired with, like, I think last time you mentioned the word feeble, which I don't know if that's necessarily entirely accurate, but he definitely, he is a very old man, Richard Harris is Dumbledore, but yet he is so powerful. All the power to Richard Harris that he was able to portray both those things at the same time.
Feeble is more from a physical standpoint in regards to he is a frail older man, and you know, compared to Michael Gambon, who would replace him, he's a little more of a spry, still active, whereas Richard Harris was more of just slow paced and meandering, and I love it.
It was really weird. I don't know how close the movies were together, but it was really weird to watch the third movie where Michael Gambon was introduced and then go and watch that Wes Anderson movie. What's it called? The one where Bill Murray's the ocean explorer.
Oh, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Yeah, it was a completely different character.
Right.
It was very
He's
strange.
A beautiful man. I do love Michael Gambon, and we'll talk his Dumbledore when he comes. But I guess let's just dive into Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah. This is what about.
Yeah, we start off back at the V. Dursley residence, or Dudley. Yeah, Dudley's the kid. Dursley is their last name. That's right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm dyslexic, so the son being named Dudley Dursley was always a problem for me because I could never remember if their last name was if it was Dudleys or the Dursleys, and it's
fucking alliteration.
It's hard, man. But we're back there, and Vernon Dursley is having a huge sale thing with his customer or his boss or whatever, a big gathering, and he doesn't want Harry Potter to ruin it with his nasty magicianness, disgustingness, wizardry stuff. So he has him basically forces him to hide away in his upstairs bedroom, make no sound, and act like he doesn't exist at all.
I do want to point out that Uncle Vernon does mention how ungrateful Harry Potter is, even though they allowed him to move into Dudley's second bedroom.
Yes, he no longer lives in the tiniest cupboard beneath the stairs. He now has a proper bedroom, and so his indentured servitude, I guess, is alleviated by having an actual bed.
Oh my God!
Very disgusting people still, and they're wonderfully portrayed by the same actors. They all again do great jobs at being easily hated characters, and I love it.
Right? Like, I don't know. Did they get like yelled at by CPS or something? I guess it's probably not CPS in UK. It's probably something else. Sorry.
I'm sure Charles Dickens has talked about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Harry goes to his upstairs, and all would have been fine that night, I guess, if there wasn't a house elf named Dobby just lurking about. And, you know, Dobby is very loud. This is our first introduction to house elves. They're very obedient creatures, but forced kind of in obedience. They're just raised into obedience, so they know nothing besides being slaves to wizards. Like, that's just their life. Yeah. And
which is horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible. But Dobby is a very amusing and beautiful character, and I love him. And you know, he's just shocked by how kind of a person Harry is. You know, Harry's just like, when house elves break the rules, they have to hurt themselves. That's just, it's ingrained into their minds that if they do something wrong, they must receive punishment for it. And whenever he commits loud punishment, like banging his head against the lamp or anything like that, Harry is just like trying to be very kind and be like, no, don't do that. Don't hurt yourself. In Dobby's mind, it's just like, wow, what a kind human being. In Harry's mind, my uncle's going to come up here and beat my ass soon if you don't shut up.
Jeez. Yeah. I, as a kid, I think I thought those parts were hilarious, that this character was hurting himself, but definitely as an adult watching this, I was just saddened by the state that Dobby is in. Voiced by Toby Jones of everything.
Yes. Specifically, I want to point out of also Doctor Who. Right. He plays the Dream Lord in Doctor Who. And I didn't do this last time, but I want to make sure I do it this time because I'm going to do this for the next, 5 films or however many we have left. Mm-hmm. Here's the running of people in Harry Potter who also appear in Doctor Who. There's Argus Filch, played by David Bradley, who recreated William Hartnell in one of the most recent specials. There is Madame Hooch, played by Zodi Wanamaker, I think, who plays Cassandra in New Who. Arthur Weasley plays Rory's dad, and who the actor's name is Mark Williams.
Oh my God, I forgot. I forgot he was in it too.
Right? Harry's dad, who is Adrian Rollins, who I don't think appears in Chamber of Secrets, but he appeared in Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, if you will. He plays an Ood in an episode. And John Cleese, who, again, has a very bit role in this movie, played a character in Classic Who in an episode called City of Death, 1979's episode. Mm-hmm. So that's everybody who has so far appeared in Doctor Who that has appeared in Harry Potter as well. I believe there might be more that I haven't uncovered, but yeah, if you're in England, you've been in Doctor Who, and because of J.K. Rowling's stipulations that actors in the Harry Potter movies be English, you've also been in Harry Potter.
Yeah, I guess honestly, now that I think about it, they at least population wise, they have less people to draw from than we do in the US. Not that everyone in our country are actors or in theirs, but Yeah, I think it is. I feel like it probably is more likely to have more actors be in several projects that are popular.
Right. Especially when you have such a good pool to choose from. Like,
right, yeah.
If your top tier actors in England are just brilliant actors who can go into any situation.
Yeah.
Like David Tennant, who will come about soon.
That's true. What a role that was.
Right. That's one of my favorite roles he's ever done. But we'll get there in 2 more movies. But going back to Dobby and the house elf, Dobby, you find out, has been very intent on Harry Potter not returning to Hogwarts because he knows of a plot to harm students at Hogwarts, and it's a very dark and dangerous plot that he's not able to speak anything about.
It'd be speaking against his family. I don't know if that's spoiling. He says it in that scene, so I don't think it's spoiling.
As long as we don't say who the family is.
That's right.
But he's been keeping Harry's friends' letters from him. That, Ron, Hermione, other kids at Hogwarts have been writing Harry letters, and Dobby has been intercepting them because he believes if Harry doesn't think he has friends, he won't return to Hogwarts. Obviously, Harry can't live in the house that he's living in right now because it's cruel and inhumane, and so he's very adamant that he has to go back. But Dobby plays a trick with a floating cake, and Harry, for whatever stupid reason, walks right behind it like he is floating, like hovering it in the air himself instead of a
different room. I mean, if it was like, if they played it off a little bit differently, like if he was a little bit closer to cake, if he almost got it, I think it would have been better. Yeah. But yeah, he's just very slowly following it as if he's using the wizard force or whatever to drop it on their head.
Right, like what are the Dursleys supposed to think other than he did this? Like, it very much looks like he did this. As you said, if he had just been in his room, he could have been like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't do anything. Right. And like, obviously they still wouldn't have believed him, but it would have made them look worse still.
Right.
Because they would have, they would just be assuming bad things. But as is, it definitely looked like Harry was to blame for that. But right after that, he is locked in the bedroom. Chains put on his bedroom window so he can't escape. The door is locked so he can't get out. I assume he's like probably fed using a tray underneath the door or something.
Oh my God.
But we don't get to see that because he is immediately rescued by the Weasley kids, Fred, George, and Ron, the youngest 3 boys, that is. They come in a flying car.
Gryffindor. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much half of House Gryffindor's Weasley kids. But they come in their flying car, which is enchanted by Ron's dad, who is a beautiful man. I love Arthur Weasley.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, he's just the goofiest of guys. And, breaking wizarding law, he enchants a car that's able to fly, and they come and rescue Harry in it without the parents knowing, of course.
Right.
Ron, George, and Fred hatched this idea and snuck out at night to do this.
Ron gets in so much fucking trouble. This
he really does. This is like the one movie where it's just like I feel super bad for him because it's just nothing good goes his way. He's always put in a terrifying situation. His wand is broken.
Like at the beginning of the movie, the whole movie's got a broken wand.
And you're thinking like, why doesn't he just get it replaced? Well, his mom sent a screaming letter at him, and he's too afraid to ask her to replace it.
Oh, man.
I assume. Maybe there's another reason, but that's how I've always watched this movie. I think in the books, it's more along the lines of she told him that he broke it, and so
you have to deal
it's
with
like
it.
They're not going to replace it. Yeah, it's like you shouldn't have fucking stolen the car in the first place, which that's what they do because Dobby yet again intercepts Harry from getting on the train.
Right.
Once the Weasley twins rescue him, Harry spends some days at the Weasley's house, then he goes back to school. But Dobby tries to stop him, and Harry and Ron can't get through the barrier to platform 9 3/4. I don't know why I said it like that.
It's been said now.
But anyways, he instead of acting like reasonable kids, and being like, let's just wait until our parents come out and then they can get us to the castle because duh, they could easily figure out a way to get you to the castle. I don't know. Like, they introduced earlier in this movie that wizards can travel through fireplaces.
Right, yeah.
So why didn't Ron and Harry just think, maybe let's just go back to the car and Mom and Dad could just set up one of those fireplace connections with the school when they get in contact and we can get over there that way. No, the dumbasses fly a fucking car.
I'm sure missing the train does not, like, automatically disqualify you from a year at Hogwarts. I'm sure there was other ways around it.
Yeah, especially if you just explain that the enchantment broke somehow. Yeah. Just briefly.
And you know how quickly that the Weasleys would have realized that they weren't there? That is one thing I did want to bring up, though. Okay, so Arthur Weasley wasn't there for Ron's first year. He was busy doing... he's part of the Ministry of Magic. And Mrs. Weasley dropped all the kids off. They went onto the platform and got on the train. So this movie... They both go through the platform to watch the kids go off. And I'm thinking to myself, Ginny's their favorite kid.
Well, yeah, it could also just be that they have like, let's see how many kids they have, if I can remember all. There's Bill, Charlie, Percy, Fred, George, Ron, and Jenny. I think there's 7 kids. Yeah, there's 6 boys, 1 girl. And so this is their only girl. So that's how I saw it.
It's also their
after
youngest.
a while they've seen all their boys go through. Fred, George, and Ron are troublemakers. Like, I mean, they like Ron more than they like Fred and George. They're just troublemakers. But yeah, I'm sure that the reason he was there was, this is my only daughter. You know, it's a more impactful moment, I guess.
And it's their last chance to watch the train go off, probably too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they still had the next, 7 years for both kids.
Oh, that's true.
their last chance to see that fresh excitement from a youngster.
It's the last time to watch the kindergartner go on the bus.
So, yeah, I give them a pass. Yeah. Who I don't give a pass is Harry and Ron taking the fucking car for a flight to Hogwarts. Like, well, first off, that's going to be a fucking story that the school tells for years. It's like... And that's one of the things I love about this movie is you see these little things that Ron, Harry, and Hermione do that it's just like, 50 to 100 years from now, that's going to be a school legacy.
Oh yeah.
It's going to evolve into something so much bigger and more grand than it was before. And one of those is Harry and Ron flying a car into the Whomping Willow to start off the second year of their school.
Yeah, remember when the famous wizards Ronald Weasley and Harry Potter destroyed the Whomping Willow in a flying Hummer? It was amazing.
Oh, it's so good. It's brilliant, and it's just so funny, and there's nothing more enjoyable than watching Rupert Grint, who plays Ron Weasley, act scared. Yeah. His panicked shrieking is just brilliant. It's like, what's happening?
Yeah, and his fucking face, dude. Oh, it's just so good. It gets so beet red, but it there's no wrinkles on the most of his face until you get to the bottom where it's just like, man. Rupert Grint.
Man, I love it.
It's great.
Yeah, it's like where Hagrid was the perfect possible choice for Hagrid. Where Robbie Coltrane, was the perfect possible choice for Hagrid in the first movie. Ron in the second movie or Rupert Grint, Jesus, in the second movie is the best possible choice for Ron. Because it's just so... He captures that character's fear so well, and putting him next to brave Harry Potter is just wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely foil each other pretty good. I don't know if that's the right term, but complement each other.
Yeah.
Is it Rupert Grint? I'm looking at Okay. All right. I've been saying Grant my whole life. / these last 20 years.
Yeah. Grint.
Okay.
Yeah, they
learn something every day.
Yeah, that's but now we're at the school. The school year begins. We meet the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, who is played by Kenneth Branagh. His name is Gilderoy Lockhart. I don't know why I said Gilderoy. It's Gilderoy Lockhart, who is just a pompous, over the top fop. Like he's crazy. I love
famous.
him. He's got a brilliant, beautiful smile. I notice I say brilliant a lot when I'm talking about Harry Potter. Like that's like
because
a go-to word for me is brilliant. It's brilliant. Sorry guys, I don't own a dictionary or a thesaurus, so yeah, I'm a one-tone adjective guy.
Yeah, he owns 1,000 and probably more, probably a couple thousand books, but none of them are a dictionary of the parts.
I have an Italian dictionary.
Yeah, I think we were going through some stuff, and I had 3 Spanish dictionaries and a German one. I kept one of the Spanish ones. I think I got rid of the rest of them though. I'm probably not going to speak very much German. I don't know.
You got to. It's the growing language. But yeah, you meet Gilderoy. He's the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. He's written 20 plus novels or whatever about his grand adventures and his epic achievements. But at the same time, in person, he doesn't seem like he's really a good wizard at all. He kind of just seems like he doesn't know jack shit about what he's talking about. For
that being the case, he definitely puts himself in a lot of situations to fail. Like, yeah. What the hell, dude?
It's so silly. It's like, do you not know how to set yourself up to succeed?
Yeah.
Anyways, the meat and potatoes of the Chamber of Secrets, if you will, is that the Chamber of Secrets gets opened. Yeah. It's a mysterious secret passageway at Hogwarts that is a legacy. Mm-hmm. You know, there's so much history behind it, but nobody actually knows what the fuck it is, where its entranceway is,
right?
How to get in there.
Well, no fucking wonder the stairs fucking change.
yeah, right. Everything moves all the time. But there's also rumored that within the Chamber of Secrets is a mythological beastie of sorts.
Yeah.
That is murderous. And when the Chamber of Secrets is threatened as being opened, obviously the school goes into lockdown mode because that means students' lives are at danger. Because I guess the last time it was opened, a student did die.
Mm-hmm.
Moaning Myrtle, who is, again, also in Doctor Who.
What a unique voice.
Yeah, the Chamber of Secrets is opened. Harry and the gang begin immediately to suspect that they are the only ones to detective sleuth the mystery of the Chamber of Secrets. You know.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily true in this movie. So I think like they are just like living off of the success of their endeavors in the first movie. Like there's so many things that they think, okay, we can do that because we're Harry Potter and the gang. And it's like, no, you're children. There's bad things happening.
But they do it. They do.
Right.
I said do. They do accomplish it though. Yeah, like Hermione figures it all out. You know, she solves basically everything. She just is just also petrified at the same time, so she can't tell them what she accomplished.
Yeah, there's actually a really big portion of this movie that does not have Hermione in it, which kind of surprised me on the rewatch because I remember her being very important to the plot, which she was. Like especially when it came to the whole, is it, you know, it's different accent. I'm usually pretty good with accents, but I just can't remember seeing it written. Is it Mudblood or Mugblood?
Mudblood.
Mudblood. Okay.
M-U-D. Yeah.
So it's a slur for people who were not born from magical folk or who were born from muggles and then had magical powers. Yeah. Do they also call people with like a split family relationship mudbloods, or are they called half-bloods like in later?
Yeah, I think they're half-bloods.
Okay. Well, anyways, it's a slur. It's a bad name. And Draco decides to call her it a couple of times in the movie. And so what's really interesting about this movie is that a lot of it is about racism, pretty much. There's some really interesting commentary.
Yeah, I definitely really appreciate it. And again, as you find out later at this is a spoiler, but again, It's Harry fucking Potter.
Yeah.
Like, you probably know who Voldemort is in real life, in regards to his real life, that is, not in real world life, because it's a fictional story. But before he was Voldemort, he was a man named Tom Riddle.
Right.
And Tom Riddle's parents, he was a half-blood. You know, he had a wizarding mother and a muggle father. And so you have one of those situations where the guy who is promoting pure breed isn't a pure breed himself. You know, he's pure blood, I should say. He's not pure blood himself.
Which kind of mirrors the whole Nazi regime thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's the same with Voldemort. And this movie goes deeper into that. It looks deeper into that character before Voldemort. And it's unique in that regard and how it does that. Because obviously, if you don't know anything about Harry Potter, and I probably will have to put a spoiler wall before I say this part, but it's like, if you don't know anything about Harry Potter and have never watched any of the movies before, you think that the owner of this mystical diary that they find somewhere along the line, you think it's just a kid from the school. When the Chamber of Secrets was opened the first time, you think it's just some random kid named Tom Riddle. But lo and behold, you find out at the end that Tom Riddle is actually Voldemort, and you get that unique view into him without realizing it, you know. And I really love that method of telling a story.
Yeah. I don't know when you're going to put up a wall or not, but for a good portion of this movie and in the past of the storyline, Hagrid is suspect as being the heir to Slytherin, which we didn't really talk about. When they first hear about the Chamber of Secrets, the students, particularly Hermione, asks Professor McGonagall, "What the hell is this?" in those exact words. She says, "What the hell, McGonagall?"
What in the fuck?
And she explains the origin of the school, which I think is the first time we get this in the movie series. Anyways, I think last time I said I did not read the first two books, so I do not know if that's the case. But the four heads of the school, I don't remember their first names, but Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Yeah, you go ahead. You know them.
Yeah, I could totally. It was Salazar Slytherin, Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Helga Hufflepuff.
Well, there you go. Well,
again, all very similar to like first and last names in that they have the same first letter. And for a dyslexic kid, fuck you, J.K. Rowling, you're really hurting me, girl. Like, God, it was so like it was a challenge as a kid.
She's hurting everybody right now, though. Hurting our hearts. Anyhow, Slytherin, he was the OG racist, thinking that magic and being taught magic should be preserved for people who were born of magical people. And the other people disagreed with him. They thought anyone who has the ability, because in this world you're born a wizard or a witch, which, you know, in other mythos that you could learn to become a wizard or witch, but whatever. He believed that, and they disagreed, and eventually he left the school. But he did have this Chamber of Secrets, and it is believed that only people who are of blood relation to him, his heir, can open the chamber. And that comes into play. Man, there's a lot of times where Harry's just in the wrong spot at the wrong time in this movie. It's also like the most that I recall them using Felch in the series.
Yeah,
is for this.
Yeah, because he kind of just becomes a comedic relief character throughout the rest of the movies. Like, they kind of just scrape him under the rug and are like, all right, we're done with his character. We're not going to expand him anymore. He does get brief moments in the books where you get more of a glimpse into his character, but the movies just couldn't be bothered to do that. Like, Peeves the Poltergeist, like, he's a character in the books that's just completely ignored in the movies. Like, they never even bothered to cast him, and I mean, he has no purpose to the plot, but
he's just fun.
Yeah, he's just a fun additional character, and that's how the movies start treating events of the books. Is like, if it doesn't have it has any correlation with the plot, we're just gonna ignore it, and
I mean, yeah, you got so many fucking pages, and you gotta convert them into movie script. You gotta cut some things for sure, but I'm sure some people would wish that these things were included.
Like even the scene where McGonagall explains the Chamber of Secrets in the books, it's Professor Binns, the History of Magic professor, which like if you're gonna ask anybody the history of the school, yeah, exactly, and it's just like, but he's a very dry, mundane, boring ghost who, he was lecturing when he died, and he just continued lecturing. His ghost continues on.
I love that. That's awesome, actually.
Right, but in a movie atmosphere, you don't want to create that character because it's going to take way too long to establish him and to give it a reason and to to bother with it. So you do a character you've already established. You do Professor McGonagall, who people know and love because it's fucking. Oh no, I'm blanking on her name. It's
fucking Maggie Smith, dude. As Dame Maggie Smith.
Thank you. Gosh. But yeah, she is, again, brilliant in this role, and she delivers on the threat of the chamber. It's how she tells that story. It kind of, instills you with a little bit of fear. At least the kid me. Yeah, exactly. And kid me was like, oh no, this is scary. It's like, yes. In a television atmosphere, though, you can bring it back to be Professor Binns because you can expand more characters and you can look deeper into it. And that's why I think Harry Potter should be a television series and not a freaking movie series. But
yeah, I'm glad that they did do the movie series because I love these movies growing up. But I agree with you that it would make an amazing television series. Yeah. Okay, so what I was saying earlier about Filch. As a kid, I definitely was intimidated by his character, especially in the first movie. And in this movie, it carried over. But as an adult watching this movie, I felt so bad for Filch, man. Oh, his fucking cat. I forget the cat's name, but it was sad.
Mrs. Norris.
Mrs. Norris, yeah. So they're walking down the halls. There's a big plot line in the movie where Harry's hearing voices. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But he follows the voices down the hall, and then all of a sudden he sees on the wall a message in blood, and Mrs. Norris is just hanging there.
Yeah.
And it ends up that she's petrified and she's okay later. But
yeah, and the blood is from dead chickens that were being killed out in the compound.
Right.
Out in the grounds.
What exactly does the message say again?
I think it was the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware.
That's right. That's what it is. So it's because Harry and his buddies are the first on the scene, and like just everybody shows up in this corridor for some fucking reason.
Right.
I'm not entirely sure why, but everybody just sees Harry there in this message in blood. So immediately Harry is suspect of this crime. And Filch sees his cat, and I mean, oh my god, he's just so heart torn from it. And I just felt for him as a pet owner so much. I felt for him. He immediately wants Harry to be dealt with immediately. But I believe Dumbledore's there as well, and he's like, "Listen, I don't think we know everything that happened here. We need to ask questions."
But not only does Dumbledore come to Harry's aid, but so does Snape, who's also on the scene, who's just like, he even mentions, he's like, I think Mr. Potter was probably in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is, it's kind of surprising, but at the same time you realize the magnitude of the chamber being opened. Like even Snape is like, we shouldn't just rush into things. This is something really serious and really bad.
Right. I just wanted to mention that they really used Argus Filch really well in this particular movie, I think, compared to the rest of the movies, from my recollection anyways.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think we've talked the story enough. The characters are just as lovely as they were in the first film. So like if you love all of the acting, you're going to be just as thrilled with the acting in this. Plus the again, we've already talked that the atmosphere got darker, which I thought was brilliant for this movie, especially when they get into the chamber, when you finally explore that mythical paradise that it is. It's so dark and gloomy.
Pretty great.
I love it.
Like, it seems as if, so I guess it makes sense architecturally wise, because when you build a castle, you usually pick a location that is already naturally defendable, and then you just build onto that. But there is definitely some natural structures mixed in with this awesome architecture in the chamber. It's like a cave that Slytherin built onto. It's pretty cool. And then there's that really big like snake, the door of the chamber with the snakes and shit. That thing is fucking cool.
Right. And it's built, it's like hidden as a sewage system kind of. And so, that's why you would never have noticed it, is because it just kind of looks like sewage tubes or sewer tubes.
Yeah, let's go down there and explore. Yeah. That's something only Harry and the gang would think of.
Right. Yeah, they finally do get there. And again, to give these kids benefit, they do solve the mystery. So it's like there's so many moments where you're like, you're just kids, you shouldn't be looking into this. And yet they are the only ones who seem capable of actually solving the crime or solving the issue.
Right. At some point, Dumbledore is honestly depending on them to do this.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the movie, you feel like you guys are some dumb fucking high school kids. I guess like middle schoolers really at this age. And it's like, you guys are just gonna get yourself killed. But then like Dumbledore like literally gets pulled out of the situation for strange legal reasons. Yeah. And he like voices to them while they're being hidden by the invisible cloak that he's depending on them to figure this out.
Yeah, it's like, it's up to you. I'm being removed. Cool. It's very cool, but at the same time, you're wondering how much of this could Dumbledore have solved himself. All these kids are these kids are doing all this detective work and like discovering all these things that are going on, and Dumbledore already has a lot of this knowledge. So why doesn't he just step in and stop it himself? Yeah,
like they had to have done something the first time around to either convince. I guess we've already spoiled that it's Tom that did it the first time around. To either convince Tom to stop, or something happened that made him decide to stop, or they did something that stopped him. Probably just Hagrid taking the blame for it. Like maybe Tom felt like there was too much heat on him after the kid died, and blamed it on Hagrid and left it at that. He probably didn't like Hagrid either, because Hagrid's half giant. That might be part of the story. I don't know.
Well, later on, I don't know how much the movies go into it, but in the books, giants actually were part of Voldemort's army in the first Wizarding World. Oh. Because the wizards are racist bastards who treat everyone who is not a wizard like they're trash. So like they killed giants and they drove them out of Britannia, and being half giant was probably more of like a shoe-in to Voldemort's army, because it's like you're spurned. I want to say spurned. It's not the word spurned. You're spurned by society. Sure. That is like, come join the Death Eaters as long as you're not Muggle lover. Yeah. But I do think you're right. I do think that Hagrid taking the blame for the first time the chamber was opened, I think it was just no longer fun for Tom in a sick way. There was no more. There was too much heat, as you said. There was too many eyes on him. Yeah. That he would have been caught. So I think you're right that's why it stopped the first time around.
What house was Hagrid in?
I want to say he would either have been Gryffindor or Hufflepuff.
Yeah, he feels like a Hufflepuff, really. Yeah, I would say.
But I feel like intuitively.
But like, it did seem like he and Tom were kind of friends.
Yeah, I guess he could have been in Slytherin too. But he's such a pure soul that I feel like he wouldn't have been in Slytherin. But the giantess in him, giantess. He's not female giant. The giantness in him, might appeal more to the Slytherin house. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
It's fun to think about. I would like to believe he's Gryffindor.
Interesting question.
I could see him being.
Yeah, because he definitely fits in with with the kids
Yeah.
pretty well. What an interesting school system.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot that's just not focused on that I would love to get more focused. Like, again, nothing against this movie. This movie covers everything it needs to and establishes the world even more than the first one. Like, it continues to build on it, and it's beautiful. And I again, I'm going to use the word. It's
Right.
brilliant. It's it's wonderful. But the things that I wish would get more attention are things like the Weasley family. Harry spends some time with them, and you get a brief glimpse into what it's like to see Harry in a happy family relationship. But we don't get to focus on them too much. They're just kind of like the exposition dump moments where it's just like, all right, we're about to go back to the second year. What do we need to set up? Quickly, Ron, tell them at the dinner table what's going to happen.
Right. So you talking about the Weasleys kind of made me think about their rivalry with the Malfoys, which brings me to, honestly, I think he's a pretty interesting character. I hate him, but Draco's dad, Lucius, played by Jason Isaacs, does a wonderful job. He does a great
he's
job.
So sinister.
Yeah. Especially in this movie. Later movies, less so. So he's got a lot of intimidation factor, but once you bring in like the big bads, he kind of shrivels away.
He definitely pales to them.
Yes. But in this movie, I don't know. This is big spoilers probably. He is the biggest bad that Harry's gone up against so far. He has a lot of power. He's in the political system. He's the one who gets Dumbledore removed from the school, and it is all so that he can reignite this basically race war. In the Wizarding world.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, again, as you said, huge spoilers, so tread lightly going forward in regards to listening. But I don't know to the extent of knowledge he had about the diary itself. I don't know if he knew how much power the diary had, or if it would just possess somebody. But through these actions that he is so hands off from, he brings this school to its knees, and it's like, as you said, he's a different type of villain. It's the first one is, the first movie you have. I don't want to spoil the villain, I guess, if you haven't watched it yet, but the first movie's villain is more upfront wizard. It's a magical duel kind of, whereas the second villain in Lucius Malfoy is more of a governor. He's more of like a political villain, and it's all about the politics for him, and it's all about like the steps he can do to unravel the school.
He's definitely I look down at you from my up-tipped nose type of character. And I think Jason Isaacs he nails it. All the Malfoys have blonde hair, and he's got this long, like elvish blonde hair on. It's just stunning eyes. They even do like the lighting trope where they just light the eyes. It's usually sometimes they use it for villains in classic movies, but they do it a lot for women when they're trying to make them feel alluring. They'll just put a line of light over their eyes. They do that for him in Dumbledore's office, and I'm like,
it's good.
I love that.
It is good.
Yeah, I usually complain about it when I see it done with women, because it's like, gosh, women are alluring enough. You don't have to do that. But
you don't need the sex appeal.
Yeah, you don't need to amplify the sex in it. Just let them be who they are. Let the actors' choices do that.
Yeah, let their natural essence just carry it across.
Yeah, and I also do it really smart in that particular scene in Dumbledore's office, because there's obviously a window there. I don't know if it's natural light, but they did it in a way that it felt like natural light. And that's the only way to do it, if you ask me, because sometimes, especially in TV, when they do it, it's like, oh God, if that's light, that light is coming from nowhere other than a fucking source for it. for those who don't know, I worked for a long time at an opera house focusing lights.
Yeah.
So every movie is ruined for me when it comes to lighting. I have to think about technical stuff.
But at the same time, once you start thinking critically, you're just kind of keeping them on their toes. So it's like, you know, when you're making a film, whenever you set a light, you have to think, where's this light coming from, and does it make sense for the shot? And not every movie is going to care about that, because that's not, you know, not every director's focused on that kind of a thing. But generally speaking,
no. I'm by no means a lighting designer. I honestly suck at the design aspect of lighting. So I don't know that I could do better, but I do know some of the tropes in lighting, and I can see it, and it's usually not good.
Yeah.
You don't want your audience to notice.
Yeah. And for the most of this film, it's candlelight, and it looks beautiful. And it makes so much sense for a castle atmosphere, for, you know, the mystical magicness of the world. Like, it's all wonderfully done. But like, you're right, it's whoever the lighting designer or the cinematographer. I didn't write the cinematographer down, but they did a great job throughout this movie. It's all beautiful. Yeah,
they really did. Yeah, especially these first two movies. It's just awesome. The atmosphere in these first two movies, hands down, just. It's the magical world of Harry Potter, the Wizarding World.
And the special effects even got better.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of the effects, the monsters, I don't know how much we want to talk about the monsters in this film, but they definitely are more highlighted in this film than in the previous one.
And they feel practical. You know, there's a lot of giant monsters that I don't want to give the species away, but when they utilize them, when they're on screen, they're menacing. They're really cool, really creepy.
Oh yeah, especially when they start talking to you.
Yeah.
The voice acting for them are really good too. They really are.
Yeah, and the final monster, the big bad beastie at the very end, is, I mean, it's a little dated, just like a tiny bit. But I don't care.
Sure.
The effects are so good.
It's good.
Yeah, it's such a great fight.
It is good.
And
oh yeah, that last plunge. That's all I'll say. That last plunge in the
it's
fight.
Iconic.
So
it's
good.
Iconic. Like, at least in my brain, in my mind, it's engraved. Like, if I think of that scene, I think of those last few shots and that last plunge, as you said.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that whole finale scene is, like, way above the first movie, in my opinion. Like, the first movie's finale is great also.
Oh yeah, in that first movie, I think that finale scene is really important to set up Harry's character for the rest of the movies, while this is just so much more epic. And also really important plot wise too. Not that the first one wasn't important plot wise, but it's a niche ending for sure.
But it also shows Harry's just intuitive skill as like a person. Even like, he's stripped of magic here. It's just him and a sword and a beastie, and you know, he has to use his brain. He has to use his athleticism, which he is not a very athletic kid. It's wonderful. Like, it's a very,
well, he's the seeker.
That's right. Yeah, he does have to have a sleek body for aerodynamics, but in a sword fight, I don't know if you would really want a sleek, thin kid fighting. Obviously, you wouldn't want to put a kid in this situation. It is a
pretty light sword. The sword he's using is good for his body.
Yeah, build. which makes you wonder.
I missed what you said.
Well, it makes you wonder with the sword like that. Like, was Godric Gryffindor was like a shorter human, or was he just like
maybe?
Because it is kind of a dinky little sword for a grown man to carry around.
But also maybe because of the qualities of the sword, it kind of just shows up when you need it. Maybe it magically forms to fit the body of the person wielding
that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that too.
Workaround.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't see why a person of my build, and you know, if you guys have seen our artwork, if you could call it that, or doodle of myself, that's pretty accurate to how I'm built. I'm a big person. And I wouldn't say I wouldn't use that sword. I'm sure I could swing it pretty fast.
That is true. I mean, yeah, you're right. I guess it isn't too short of a sword for a grown man. I don't know. I think J.K. Rowling should hire us to help retcon her stories, because I think we got that shit down pat.
Yeah. That should just be part of the book. Yeah. Because it would really be cool if it showed up later in Harry's life and it was a long sword.
He's like, fuck yeah.
Gryffindor!
There's one funny moment that is a spoiler for the next movie, but I wanted to talk about it right now while I remember, because it made me laugh so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as we mentioned, Ron's wand is broken, so most spells backfire on him. So like he'll cast a spell and it'll just backfire on him or something in his vicinity, or the spell itself just won't work properly. And
like the slugs. Oh my god.
In the scene where I'm actually talking about in the scene where McGonagall is explaining the Chamber of Secrets. Whoa, big spoilers for Prisoners of Azkaban. If you want to skip that, skip to 52:15. That scene starts off with Ron trying to turn his pet rat Scabbers into a cup, into a goblet. And it fails, and you just get a goblet that kind of looks like a rat. You know, it just looks like rat skin shaped into a goblet.
Yeah. Tail still wagging.
Yeah, and then that scene proceeds to happen where McGonagall explains the history of Hogwarts and the Chamber of Secrets in the first time it opened.
Right.
And in the next movie, you find out that rat is actually a wizard named Peter Pettigrew. And so I watched this entire scene just sitting there thinking, Peter has to listen to all like a goblet, and I want to know how that feels for him, because he is like, it's so fucking funny, because he's not a good character. He's another villainous character, but it is so wonderful that he was just shaped into a goblet for that entire scene.
It is pretty good. Well, I don't know, man. I think we probably talked this movie.
Yeah.
I could talk this movie a lot, probably more than we have, definitely. I think I said last time that this is the movie that I've seen the most out of
but not by choice.
Franchise. Not by choice, but honestly, I had enough time in between watches that there was definitely things from other movies that I thought were in this movie that I was surprised weren't in there. So I definitely had enough time in between. I would say I do really like this movie. And if I can go ahead and go into closing statements, I can. I definitely a full-faced movie. You know what? I would even give this movie a face and a half. This is a good movie. I don't know if it's necessarily better than the first movie. Maybe it is. I can't say that off the top of my head, but I did really enjoy this watch through. Yeah. Go see this movie. Obviously, you need the first one to set it up, I would say. And they just pair each other so well. Both these movies directed by Christopher Columbus. Or is it just Chris Columbus?
Yeah, I think it's just Chris.
Either way.
But I bouncing off that, wholeheartedly agree. I gave the first movie 4 stars. I do personally believe this is a better film. I believe Chamber of Secrets is more magical, and I think it sets up the world better. Like it doesn't have to do what Sorcerer's Stone did. The Sorcerer's Stone already delivered the magical world really well, and this just took that and added onto it, and it made it darker. And the effects are just beautiful, and I loved everything about it. And they made the Quidditch scene even more thrilling and exciting.
Oh yeah. When they're weaving in through the bleacher things, that was awesome.
It was so good, and there's a rogue bludger that's chasing them around everywhere, and the sounds the bludger is making are so menacing. Like it's whistling through the air, and you're just like, "Oh fuck, this thing is like a deadly obstacle." And they added so much to this film, to this franchise, that I think it's a much better film than the first one. And like 4 stars. Wholehearted recommendation.
Hell yeah.
I like it more than the first one, and you need the first one to set it up, but you're right. They're together, paired well, or together they are a pair, and they're paired very well. And it's almost jarring how the series shifts after this.
It is. I won't say that I dislike the next movie because my dog. I do enjoy the next movie, but it is just vastly different.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, next week on Green and Faceless on the Couch.
The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Dun dun dun. I've been the Green Traveler.
And I have been the Faceless Leon. Safe travels, and good night. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of Fiction Works 19. If you like the show, please show your support by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Like, follow, subscribe, wherever you might listen. We also now have a Patreon account. If you feel so inclined to support us in a financial manner, please become a patron by visiting patreon.com/greenandfaceless. You can also find more information about us on our Facebook account or on the Fiction Works 19 Instagram account. Thank you so much for listening.